All right, Texas Senator Ted Cruz joins me now. Sir, good to have you on here. You're in New York, obviously, the 9/11 ceremony downtown today. You attended that. The president didn't come to New York, didn't go to Shanksville, not in D.C., at the Pentagon either. Bizarre. First time in the 22 years that the president hasn't gone to one of the sites of 9/11.
Well, listen, I think it's important for every American to remember what happened 22 years ago.
Yeah.
It was the greatest terrorist attack in our nation's history. And, you know, it's really striking. I had the opportunity to speak this morning at a memorial here in New York for the firefighters who died, who went in and gave the ultimate sacrifice. And one of the things that I talked about is that college seniors weren't alive when 9/11 happened.
Right.
It was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
If you talk to young professionals who work here at Newsmax, if they're 25, 26, 27,
They don't remember.
they have no memory of 9/11. And for those of us who lived through it, I think we have a special responsibility to help them understand that it was a unique moment. It's a moment really in our nation's history that I think is rivaled only by Pearl Harbor for the impact on our consciousness. And the way it played out, you know, I still remember that September morning. So Heidi and I were in D.C. Our apartment is less than a mile from the Pentagon. Mm-hmm. And Heidi was working in the White House, so she was there in the White House when this happened. And when the first plane hit, if you remember on the news, everyone thought, okay, it must be an accident. Maybe it was a Cessna. Maybe a pilot had a heart attack. Like, what happened? This is tragic, but something went wrong. Yeah. But then with all the cameras pointed at the Twin Towers, the second plane comes in, and you see that it's a full-on passenger jet. And in that instant, everyone realizes, okay, this is something totally different. This is not an accident. This is deliberate. And then just staring and watching as the flames went up. You know, one image that they don't show on TV anymore is the image of the people up at the top floors as the fire got closer and closer, who made the decision, rather than burn to death, to jump. And just watching that morning as you see body after body drop 100, 110 stories and drop to their death, those images were breathtaking. And then you saw the stream of humanity of the people fleeing out of both towers. And going against the stream were the firefighters, were the police officers and first responders. And they knew when they were going in that there was a very real risk they wouldn't live. And I got to say, the moment that I think young people in particular need to know, the moment that truly is seared, is when the first tower collapsed. And I think millions of us said the exact same thing. Oh, my God. Like, it just...
You'd never seen anything like it.
It didn't seem real. No, it hadn't occurred to anyone.
It felt like a nightmare.
Thousands of people being murdered in one instance, right in front of your eyes. And that...
Does it marginalize it for the president to not attend one of these ceremonies? I mean, you're talking about we need to remember, and a lot of people, you know, that are younger don't recall. I think when he doesn't even bother to show up for one of these events, I think that marginalizes it, and I don't understand why any president would make that calculation.
Look, I think it's a mistake. I think the president has an obligation to tell the American people what it was about, to bring them together. But remember, Joe Biden, this is the same president who in recent weeks sent letters to the 9/11 families saying that he was considering taking the death penalty off the table for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other planners of 9/11, which was horrific. I spoke out loudly against it. Millions of Americans were horrified, and thankfully the outcry was great enough that it appears they backed away from that plan. But look, when it comes to this administration and foreign policy, they put politics ahead of everything. And so this administration doesn't want to talk about 9/11. They want to put 9/11 behind them. Look, the reason I think they wanted to give a plea deal to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of 9/11, is they wanted to announce, we've emptied Gitmo by September 11th. It was purely a political objective, rather than having respect for the families of the 2,997 people who were murdered that day.
And we've already seen their political calculation come into play with the Afghanistan pullout. They made the same mistake there. They do things based on politics, not the right decision, and they pay a price for it. and now they're going to pay the price again. I just don't understand. I don't understand how you make these decisions.
Well, and Rob, it was the identical political decision. It was, again, 9/11. The Biden White House decided we want to pull out of Afghanistan by September 11th. And the top brass, the military, said, look, we can't do it by then. We need the forces specifically to maintain Bagram Airfield and Kabul International Airport. And the White House said, we don't care, drop below the numbers. And so they abandoned Bagram, which was a secure airfield that we had spent tens of billions of dollars building, and they abandoned it before the withdrawal. And you want to know why so many people were killed, why 13 American servicemen and women were murdered in Afghanistan by a suicide bomber. It's because they abandoned Bagram, which was a secure airfield. They could have protected our servicemen and women there. And they did it because politics mattered more than national security. They
wanted that political victory on that date to have all that aligned for those reasons. And that's what's so infuriating to the families of those 13 who are so angry right now.
You know, I will say one thing, though. Thinking back to September 11th and the days that followed it, we also need to remember the unity that this country had. Remember how many of us, we hugged each other in the wake of 9/11. It didn't matter if you were Republican or Democrat or black or white or Hispanic. It didn't matter what your religion was. It didn't matter. There weren't red states and blue states.
Right.
We were Americans. And I got to say, the moment when George W. Bush was standing on the rubble with a bullhorn and the guy calls out, "We can't hear you." And he responds, "I can hear you, and soon the entire world will hear you." That was a moment. I, for one, wish we could get back some of that national unity to stop bickering about stupid things and actually remember we're Americans and what that means. September 11th, as horrific as it is, we saw incredible courage, incredible heroism, incredible sacrifice, and incredible unity. And that's a big part of who America is.
Yeah, if only you could do it without a tragedy, because remember what his approval rating was. In that moment, everybody was behind Bush. It didn't matter what your politics were. Senator Cruz, thank you so much for joining us here today. Good to see you as always.
Thanks, Rob.
All right.